Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. I really appreciate everybody being here. So, fellow warrant officers, welcome to the annual AUSA Warrant Officer Breakfast. It's an honor to participate in this event, and I want to extend special thanks to our sponsor, the Boeing Company, and to the United States Army Warrant Officer Association for their continued support of our cohort. The next 2 days are an important opportunity not only to connect as a community, but to also reflect on the Chief of Staff of the Army's 4 critical focus areas: warfighting, building combat-ready formations, continuous transformation, and strengthening the profession. As warrant officers, it is essential that we not only understand these priorities, but also lead the way in ensuring our formations are aligned with them. Our unique roles demand that we translate this vision into action across our respective units, fostering readiness and professional excellence at every level. During our time here, as we listen and engage with our guest speakers and participate in the panels, I encourage each of you to think about how your contributions directly nest with those 4 focus areas and how you can carry this message forward to your formations. Together, we are a vital force in maintaining the strength and ability of our Army. Now, I'd like to introduce the Mistress of Ceremonies for the breakfast this morning, Ms. Kara Rinkoff. Kara Rinkoff is the Executive Director of the United States Army Warrant Officers Association and has been for the past year and a half. Her primary duty is to conduct the official business of the association on behalf of the elected national leadership of USAWOA. Ms. Rinkoff serves as USAWOA's principal point of contact with representatives of the Department of the Army, Department of Defense, the United States Congress, and the White House. Additionally, she represents USAWOA in all functions of the military coalition, where she serves as the co-chair of its communications committee. She serves as a senior editor of the USAWOA Newsliner, the monthly magazine of the association, and is an ex officio member on all established USAWOA national committees. Ms. Rinkoff graduated from Drake University with a bachelor's degree in communications and a double major in broadcast news and history. She also received a master's degree from Drake University in communications for public affairs and advocacy. She spent more than a decade as a television news producer and wire reporter and came to us after 4 years as the Programs and Public Relations Director of the Jewish War Veterans of the United States of America. May I introduce Ms. Kara Rinkoff. Kara?
Thank you so much, and I want to thank Chief Anderson for saying that I had to host this morning. So thank you. He was looking for a host, and he said, well, I think you're going to do it. That's fine. If you can please bow your heads for the blessing of the food by CW5 Corsaro. Who is where? Oh, there you are.
Thank you, and I'll tell you, it's quite an honor to be able to be asked to do this. Let us pray. Lord, you are a glorious and awesome God. We thank you and praise you for the grace you have bestowed on us, giving us freedoms and blessings beyond what we deserve. Lord, we ask for your presence today as we gather this morning to break bread and fellowship as a total army, one team of all compos, families, civilians, veterans, dedicated to serve this great nation. For it is good and pleasant when we dwell together in unity, Psalm 133. Lord, open our hearts with your divine wisdom, discernment, and moral and ethical courage. Go before us and with us and move forward as we're in a unified team to generate the positive change we need to transform this wonderful Army and do this together to meet the global challenges of today and tomorrow. And we ask a special blessing for all who have been affected by Hurricanes Helene and Milton these past few weeks. Lord, bless those courageous men and women who have responded to the call to help those in need with selfless service and a servant's heart. And bless the meal we are about to partake. Let it nourish our bodies and bless the hands that prepared it. And one special blessing for all those senior leaders as they move forward over these next 3 days and the next few years, that they too may have your guidance your blessing as they move us into the future of where we're about ready to go. We just love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Lieutenant General Jonathan P. Braga, a native of Attleboro, Massachusetts, assumed command of the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, USASOC, on August 13, 2021. Prior to this, he served as the Deputy Commanding General of the U.S. Army Pacific in 2020, and before that as the Commander of Special Operations Command Pacific. Commissioned as an infantry officer in 1991, upon graduating from the United States Military Academy, Lieutenant General Braga has held numerous command and operational positions. He has served with the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea and the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment at the National Training Center in California. Following his graduation from the Special Forces Qualification Course, he served in multiple command roles with the 7th Special Forces Group, Airborne, deploying extensively throughout the Caribbean, Central America, and South America for various missions and humanitarian operations. Over the years, Lieutenant General Braga has demonstrated extraordinary leadership during multiple deployments to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Colombia. He has held various critical positions, including Task Force Commander during Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Willing Spirit. His extensive expertise has been further developed through his service in key roles, including the Operations Officer for Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, and Chief of Staff at JSOC. In addition to his operational experience, Lieutenant General Braga holds a master's degree from the Naval War College and has served as an Army War College Special Operations Fellow at the Naval Postgraduate School. His career reflects a deep commitment to the U.S. Army, with leadership roles ranging from Garrison Commander of the National Training Center to his current position as the Commander of USASOC, where he continues to oversee critical special operations missions and support for our nation's defense. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lieutenant General Jonathan P. Braga.
Okay, thanks for that kind introduction there, Kara and Aaron and everyone. Doug, thanks so much for the invitation to be here today. A lot of pressure up here. I know I get candid feedback from the warrant officer population. I've been threatened if I don't do well, so I'm feeling the pressure right now. There's so much to think about when you're talking about the warrant officer population. Can you hear me if I walk around? Is this thing working right? Okay. So I was thinking about how to prepare this. I'm going to go back to my notes here in a little bit, but my career started off as an infantry officer, heading to Korea. You know, you basically start off at West Point. You're dreaming about being a platoon leader, wanted to go infantry, wanted to, you know, at that time lead men and prepare for combat and not knowing what's going to happen on the tail end of the Gulf War there. And I show up in Korea, and it's all messed up, you know, with the stop loss and everything else. I'm sure there's no warrant officer involved with that, with the mess up with the, you know. So basically everyone went to Korea. So plus I wasn't high enough in my West Point class to have any choices anyway. So so I went there, and I sit down with the battalion chief of staff, an XO at the time. And all the infantry platoons are full, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm infantry, ranger qualified. I mean, so I've been studying for 5 years as being infantry platoon leader, and said, no, they're all full. You're not going to be infantry platoon leader. Okay, all right. And he asked us, you know, what we study in school and this and that, because I was with a friend of mine, and I probably wasn't the most mature individual, like all of us, right, at that time. And the back and forth we had there, he made a decision like, great, you're going to be the BMO. I'm like, I don't even know what a BMO is, right? You're going to be the battalion maintenance officer. All I've been studying is infantry stuff and around the woods and 7-8 and all that. And you know, the actual BMO was on a mission somewhere else. And I was the acting BMO in 1-5 infantry at that time, Bobcats at Camp Hovey in Korea. And then I learned how intense it was to be able to fight tonight and have everything up to fight tonight maintenance-wise. I learned how critical that mission was. And my first mentorship in the Army truly wasn't a platoon sergeant, but it was a battalion maintenance tech. Took me under his wing, and I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about maintenance. You know, I knew how to change some track and some other stuff like that. But absolutely from day one in my career, I was mentored by a warrant officer. And that continued throughout my day. And I'm going to go back to my notes to make sure I capture some of those influences upon my career. And, I reflect back on it, and so many phases of my career, I've had the blessing of working alongside and being mentored by warrant officers. And, I'm going to talk about innovation a little bit because that's the whole kind of theme here for AUSA this week, and the critical role that you all can play for the Army in this. Because I do truly believe that, the non-commissioned officers are the backbone of the United States Army. But I believe this population here is our secret weapon. I believe you are the secret weapon and the envy of not only other nations, other services, right? Air Force is going down this path now, right? Recently, following our suit, like they always have. I was just in Norway 2 weeks ago, looking to stand up a warrant officer corps because they like what we see. Every special operations component I work with internationally asked me about warrant officers. What is this warrant officer thing? Right? And it's awesome when we talk about it, and they're like, why don't we have one of those? So you see that discussion happening with our UK counterparts. I'll share the stage later on today with some of our Brit counterparts, and they're looking at the same thing of adopting a model like ours like that, and I think it's pretty awesome. And hopefully I put this in the context of the role you can play moving forward. The critical juncture at right now, from your past to where we are right now, and how much we need you going forward as that secret weapon to truly innovate and transform in contact. There's a lot weighing on your shoulders there. So hopefully I can tease that out in some of these comments this morning. Before I get into kind of the speech portion there, make sure I said good morning to Aaron. I missed Brian Searcy, Army National Guard. Where are you sitting, Brian? Right there. Thanks for being here. This is a Compo 1, 2, and 3 fight. We are both the competition phase we're in now, and then should we go to high-end conflict, it is absolutely all compos, and it's going to be critical on the warrant officer expertise to make sure those actually blend together and fight together. And then LaShawn White, right there. Good to see you. Thanks for being part of that team. I know Chief Dixon Carter couldn't be here with us this morning, and I know she's dealing with some stuff. Keep her in her thoughts and prayers. Pretty awesome, inspiring kind of talk about trailblazing, what she did. And I love the fact that she was no meek church mouse in the corner, and she had her seat at the table and let her voice be known. So I'm a big fan of how she helped lay the path for others to follow, Aaron. So good luck in that journey. Yeah. Well, you're all unique. So there's only you can't mess it up. You're all totally unique. Think about how unique you are. The path you chose, whether you started off as a warrant officer or an NCO and then came over. A lot of courage in this room, right? That's a tough choice. Like, hey, I want to be a warrant officer. I know there's some side-eye glances there from those who started off as non-commissioned officers and came over. And that takes courage. It takes courage of saying, hey, I want to dedicate myself to this part of the profession and get deep in it and become an expert, become a technical expert. We benefited from that. So I thank you for those who who courageously chose that career path. It's different, and that's not always comfortable to do that. I'm not sure if we have any. Do we have any Gold Star family members in here this morning? Or okay, I don't see any hands raising, but oh yes, we do. Well, thank you so much for being here. God bless you for your. May we never forget, I know it's a journey you never chose to be on, but we'll always be here for you. And if there's anything we can do to do better, please let me personally know or anyone else to know, but very sorry for your loss. We talked about warrant officers. I truly believe you all are the secret weapon of the Army. You have your own special culture, not just the branch you represent, but you're a collective body here with your own culture. And it's one that was born to provide continuity, right? I think that's a key task, and I think you all know it. And I didn't know this to doing some research. Originally, some of it. I have sailed on some of our Army ships there. Commander, we got any maritime warrant officers in here this morning? Again, I always poke my Navy Navy counterparts that, it's no big deal. We've got a warrant officer driving a ship across the ocean. You gotta have like an 06 or something bigger than that. So I love poking my Navy counterparts with that. But some of its origination there was to provide some of that continuity for ships. 106 years, did I get that right, Chief? Yes, sir. 106 years. That's a long time, right? Almost half of our existence of coming up on our 250-year anniversary there. But the one thing that remains consistent is we got to rely on you to be adaptive technical experts, combat leaders, trainers, and advisors. I want to riff a little bit too. This is where I'm going to mess up. There's someone in the audience I'm not going to call. I'll forget, and I apologize right now. But I was thinking about how many warrant officers I've been shaped by in my career. I talked about my first stop there with my first BMT. I fast forward to my Special Forces time there, and I think about different names when I was going through my own qualification course. Pat Gleason still wears the uniform a different way and works at SOCOM headquarters. Chief Stefanik, we were talking about before coming up here. One of my first ODA team leaders, Bert Serrano, former USASOC Command Chief Warrant Officer there, taught me about dedication to the profession. I talked about that first BMT, really talking about determination. Again, fight tonight. We're gonna change track all night till we get this up because we make the OR rate to be ready to make mission for should they come across the DMZ. So I think those are the first two lessons learned out of there, and you're going to hear me talk about it throughout. Determination and dedication, combined with, in my opinion, passion, absolute passion. Going back to that courage of why you chose to come your way, you were passionately committed to that thing. I don't care if you're HR, maintenance, special forces, flying helicopters. You love something about that thing you want to get deeper on. And what comes with that is pride, absolute pride. There's pride in this room. You hear it, you see it, you feel it. But there's pride in your individual expertise that you chose to dig in on and get deep on. And we benefit it. We, the Army, we, the Joint Force, because we have the most unique secret weapon across the Joint Forces, you all. And we benefit from that. So dedication, determination, passion, pride. And I think that ends up turning into is trust, earned trust. You think about that. When you just see the rank on your chest of a warrant officer, everybody already buys in of extreme trust. I don't care if you're working in the legal field, the HR field, maintenance field, aviation field. There's an automatic buy-in with that rank on your chest. I don't care 1 to 5. Doesn't matter. Everyone's looking at you as the entrusted expert because it's been earned because it's 160 years of culture that's been built on by your forefathers and foremothers to get you to where you are right now. That's awesome. That's instantaneous credit. You have more credibility than me when I walk in a room, because they know I don't know anything, right? He's a general officer. It's like, which door do I go in? They look at you and they want to know chapter and verse of what is the expertise that you have. Again, I go back to I learned that first in maintenance. I learned that when I got to my first Special Forces team, where I learned how to the authorities and approvals just to get downrange and country clearance messages, how to work with an ambassador. This is what you do. I was mentored again in the Special Forces community. And I can go on and on of people who had touch points on different warrant officers from teams. I mentioned Bert Serrano. On different teams, I had Tommy Austin, Jesse Cineros. I just had Bob Davis, who just retired last year as the USASOC Command Warrant Officer. Gary Oslander here today. Lalo Mosqueda. Andy Anderson continues to serve without the uniform on, kind of like Doug does, right? You continue to serve in different ways. Paul Tompkins, let me tell you about Paul Tompkins, was my previous G3X. He retired after collective service of 4 coming up on 5 decades, right? Right? I get that right, Steve? So his first ODA, his first Operational Attachment Alpha, Paul Tompkins, and who went later on to become our kind of unconventional warfare expert, right? Voluminous amounts of books on unconventional warfare. But Paul and his team in 1979 was part of the nuclear deterrence mission. But on top of that, he was studying on ODA 7. At that time, there was only 1 numbers. But on ODA 7 in 1979, he was getting deep on unconventional warfare. When we talk about regional, deep expertise on mission set and area of the globe, resistance networks in the country of Ukraine. Paul Tompkins. Took me under his wing. I still learn to this day. Paul comes back and works different ways. I'm still being mentored by warrant officers, and Paul's one of those icons in the Special Forces world. let me brag on the aviation community. Again, I've been blessed with a couple decades plus in special operations. So for my career field or my experiences, we've all been, who are about my age or in that general shock group, we've been, pretty influenced by the last 20 years of the global war on terrorism, right? So I don't care if I was going out on a ground assault vehicle and the vehicle was maintained by a warrant officer leading his or her team, and then put on target in harm's way by intelligence professionals of here is what we're going after, to then been further refined by other specialties in SIGINT and electronic warfare to get us precise location to go after a target, to then be delivered or picked up on a target, or God forbid a medevac to show up from a warrant officer, the best pilots in the world, flown by a warrant officer, and the comfort that brings. We talked about this last week at the ARSOAC Change of Command. You don't know the comfort it brings when you're in a combat situation and things aren't going too well, and you have the best in the world who's going to come land a helicopter with a calm voice over the radio when things are not too calm on the ground, and the trust and the confidence that it brings when you hear that voice over the radio. Hey, we're coming to get you. We're providing fires. We're getting you out. We're providing a medevac. And it doesn't matter about the threat, because the passion, the pride, the determination, the dedication, it is a force multiplier. There's so many icons in the special operations aviation world, and I know in the regular aviation world as well. I just had been, blessed with so many icons that I felt comfortable about and trusted. Obviously, Doug is here. He won't brag, and he's done some of the most exquisite missions in aviation history in the global war on terrorism. But he's a humble, quiet professional. He won't brag, but you should be proud about him being part of this tribe here. Paul Dulfer here, Pete Sullivan currently in there. We've recently lost Carl Mayer, D.B. Cooper, right? Been picked up by him many a times. Fantastic pilot. Dave Cooper, Stan Wood, veteran of Mogadishu, he just 31 years ago in there. Mike Hardy. All of these just are representative of so many more. I'm going to miss so many names. I ran out of time to write down more names I was going through my Rolodex of how many people I've literally entrusted my life with to go out on target, to be supported on target, to be pulled off target. And everywhere I looked, it was warrant officers, right? It was absolutely amazing. I've entrusted my life many times over to the warrant officer community. We just retired Wendy Wayman from 40 years of service just this past year. You all know Wendy, another quiet church mouse. You know Wendy. You know Wendy. But she's helped us transform SI and EW as we modernize for the current threats, the current NDS threats. We use that 40 years of expertise, dedication, determination, passion, pride to get ready for what we need to be ready for. What a benefit, what a secret weapon, right? And then there's, then replaced by Bobby Singh and others out there. Communications, younger one. We had Wave Williams still in the community working over at JSOC now. Cutting edge on how we're communicating and developing modular mission environment. That's how we're communicating in the Ukraine right now, down to the gun target line, by some combined warrant officer and NCO and officers' efforts to figure out how to communicate with our partners when things changed in Ukraine. And we had to leave physically Ukraine, but still work with and advise and assist our partners. We have some of the best communicators in the world, and we benefit that people decided to dedicate their career to figure out how to do that. And the whole Army's going to dedicate as we go to C2 next, okay? It's going to come from that community, the experts who decide to dedicate their career towards it. Every branch has been touched to. CID experts. I was glad the chief, I think just recently, I know there was a large push to go kind of all civilian, and there was some pushback there where the chief, I think, recently said, no, we're going to maintain the warrant officer, which I think is a good call. And I'm proud. I got Danny in the room somewhere who's making sure I don't mess up and fall off the stage or something like that. Thanks, Danny. We talk about watercraft, intel professionals, adjutant, human resources. I have been touched by all of these experts in different branches. Again, I have personally benefited from this, but I also know thousands and thousands of others for 106 years have benefited. No one else has had this. No one else has had this culture, this type of continuity, this type of expertise, this type of passion, this type of pride. Nobody else has it. There's not another army in the world. There's not another joint service in the world who has this right here. This is the special club that you are part of. We benefit. You are a secret weapon. So I'm supposed to talk about some innovation stuff. So I'm going to mix it up, and then I'm hopefully going to lay out some challenges for you going forward, okay? But the warrant officer's ability to manage, maintain, operate, and integrate systems provides a unique capability in a force that's constantly changing. You mentor both officers and non-commissioned officers. Unique responsibility there, right? Not too many people can say that. Affecting organizational culture and processes that have impacts for generations. 106 past, and I would argue 106 going forward. Now, the original purpose remains true today, that you're technical experts in your trade, but it is so much more than that. The growth of the warrant officer has come with the growth of warrant officers' areas of expertise. That's one of the challenges I got for you. So what are the areas of expertise we need to grow moving forward? I don't think it looks like it is right now. I hope you don't as well. So you should be asking ourselves right now, status quo is not good enough. What are the new areas of expertise we need to grow? That's one of the questions I posit for you. But over time, there's been a level of evolution, adaptation, experimentation within your ranks that has strengthened our force. Much like the Army has experimented with how to employ our technical experts, we rely on institutional knowledge from you all within each of you as we move forward. We need innovation. I mean, the focus of this AUSA conference is innovation, and you are going to have a large hand on writing that chapter in our history book as an Army, as a joint force, and I'd say as an international community there. You are going to lead the way to other armies and other joint forces who don't have warrant officers. They're going to look at you like, what is that? You're a lieutenant? What is this thing? And you are going to have outsized impact when you go deal with other armies in other nations, and we need you to continue to have outsized impact. We need you to keep innovating for the warfare of tomorrow. And we'll talk about how quickly that's changing. Sometimes it's new equipment. Sometimes it's new tactics. Sometimes it's new processes. All three require iterations and testing to be successful, and all three must be deliberately revealed or concealed for effect with their adversary. So I want to talk a little bit of kind of where we've come from, but I do want to roll it back and give some historical perspective. I like history, like thinking about different chapters in our history as an Army and an armed force and the different adversaries we face to kind of put it in perspective today. So if you bear with me for a bit, I'd like to kind of throw these out there to maybe be thought-provoking and think, are we doing enough right now to innovate, to radically change your blind spots and think about how we need to be going? I mean, what is the consensus of new areas of expertise that we're trying to grow in? And I'll talk about what we're doing in special operations, and hopefully that leads to some good questions at the end. But for new technology to make a difference, I talk about this a lot. During the GWAT, I think part and parcel, all these warrant officers helped create the find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze cycle. If you haven't heard about that, but that was really ops intel fusion, network analysis, and destruction of networks by really harmonizing, optimizing that process, right? And getting it tighter and tighter and tighter till you destroyed a network. I'd argue for this warfare now, it's the innovation cycle who's going to lead to who wins. Not who's first, but who's going to innovate the fastest, who's going to adapt the new TTPs, ingest the new technology, employ them, learn from them, and then innovate again. And who can make that tighter and tighter and tighter. You see that on the battlefields of Ukraine right now. Hours, days at max where things are changing from the EMI spectrum to EW to drone warfare to artillery duels, you name it. Artillery duels, I skipped over Chief Murphy, my fires expert in OIR, with thousands of fire missions that I get mentored daily from, of the trust that I built with the whole fires team there was absolutely comforting to me when you were approving hundreds and hundreds of fire missions every day as we were clearing the MERV in Syria there. You don't know what comfort that is for someone who's got to make life and death decisions, to look at the expert, look at the dedicated professional, look at someone with passion and pride who's going to know it way better than I do, not only the systems, the processes, the weaponeering, but the judgment calls when it comes to life and death. Again, can't say enough about the warrant officer community. But that innovation cycle, so you think about it, it might be a counteraction to deny benefits and provided by our technology, or it might be advancement on the side to increase adversarial capabilities that you have to react to. But militaries develop lots of new technology. You think about World War I. You go back to World War I, what's pertinent about that? Who thought we were going to be doing trench warfare again anytime soon? I didn't 3 years ago. Here we are. I mean, that was for those my age. That's what we did. You know, base training, you dug. You stopped, you dug. Overhead cut, you dug. Like, that was just beat into us from World War II on. And that went away as warfare changed a little bit. But here we are. So militaries developed lots of new technology in World War. Flamethrowers, poison gas, combat aircraft, tanks. The development of machine guns and artillery made maneuver on the front lines nearly impossible. Soldiers dug hundreds of miles of trenches to protect themselves, just like they do today, from new weapon systems, building a no man's land between opposing sides. Then by 1916, the British broke out of the trenches with tanks. But when the tanks couldn't maneuver past the German trenches, General Patton, paired with infantry, armed picks and shovels with a new armor force, and the infantry advancing on foot cleared the path for armor units, who were able to then take out the machine guns. Action, counteraction, reaction. The employment of machine guns and artillery led to development and experimentation with these tanks, which drove new TTPs, right? Sound familiar? You look at Ukraine, maneuver warfare, static warfare, artillery dual to drone warfare. How many times has that warfare changed in Ukraine alone? Action, reaction, counteraction. German blitzkrieg comes next. You think about another example, integration of traditional German military principles and modern technology that led to successful invasions in Norway, Belgium, France, and Netherlands, previously unconceivable in some minds when you think about the Maginot Line. New technologies developed in the 20s and 30s, tanks, motor vehicles, aircraft, radios, were then combined with traditional emphasis of speed, mobility, focused attacks, and encirclements, all synchronized. Tactics whose basic principles dated back to Clausewitz. But the pairing of new technology with 18th century tactics that led to the initial German success. They put it together. Others didn't. You're staring at that same challenge today. Whether it's Ukraine or the fight in the Indo-Pacific, that's staring at you right now. What blind spots do we have? Some of them I think about, some of them I don't even recognize. This secret weapon is going to help us figure it out. Through adjustments to the offensive and defensive techniques, new techniques in defensive lines, employments of anti-tank, anti-personnel mines, counterattacks in German flanks, the Allied powers were able to overcome the blitzkrieg attacks. Action, reaction. Secondly, new technology requires iterations for testing. Failure and learning are part of the process when you're moving at speed, something the chief and the secretary talk about. We've got to be faster. We need to challenge those processes that you are experts in and ask, well, is that policy or is that law? Is that self-induced friction? And are we admiring it? Are we just following it because that's the process? That's not good enough. We've got to challenge it to be faster because we will lose in that innovation cycle, whether it's the fight in Ukraine right now or when it's the U.S. Army on the front lines. We need new processes as well as new concepts, new technology. Our Army first tested reconnaissance planes along our own border in response to the raid of Pancho Villa. General Pershing led an expedition in 1916 to protect the border that included Army's entire Air Force. Over the next 10 months, Pershing experimented with different ways to employ the airplanes. He discovered the weak engines were insufficient for the conditions. Maintenance. The pilots were unable to reliably fly at night. Pilots. Resulting in changes to training and equipment. The 1916 expedition was formative in developing aircraft employment, including providing overhead surveillance when soldiers were in contact. Sound familiar? That's pre-World War I we're talking now. If we never employ our technology under less than appropriate conditions, we won't understand its weaknesses. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. When we have this great confluence here with the Defense Industrial Base, the experts and professionals of warfare, of how do we move this forward. When you think about that, we have to challenge the process of it's got to be perfect, we've got to test it to the nth degree. I don't think the Ukrainians care about that right now when you talk about existential threat if they're whether they're going to exist as a country. We have to challenge the process. We won't understand all the weaknesses. We must be able to test it and iterate on the equipment and the tactics for its use rapidly. I also want to emphasize this isn't always about new technology. If you think about this, sometimes it's employing old technology in new ways. The Battle of Waterloo, you think about it, it was nothing new there other than the change of the formation when the Duke of Wellington changed from long linear columns to squares to fight Napoleon as he came over the hill there and then won outnumbered there. Pretty amazing when you think about it, being attacked by 4,000 French soldiers. Same equipment, different employment. What different employment is there in front of us right now? Same people, same equipment, same organization, transformation contacts not done. What if we had to fight tonight? How do we employ it differently? The solution's here in this room. Going back to 1916, a lot of people don't know, the first armored raid was actually General Patton in support of Pershing when he went off mission and actually he was supposed to go pick up some supplies in a village. Instead, he followed a few bandits, doesn't sound like Patton, to a ranch, and then in a brief gunfight actually killed a few of the bandits and then brought them back strapped onto the front of their Dodge touring cars, the first armored raid in U.S. Army history there. For many people don't know that, from Patton. Again, not a new piece of technology. Cars been around a while, right? But a novel use of something that already existed. What's existing right now that needs to be used novelly. We also must be willing to accept when new technology has become outdated. Louisiana maneuvers, everyone's heard about 1941, 400,000 soldiers doing these maneuvers from Louisiana through almost a third of the United States, just to come to the conclusion that maybe horses are outdated and we need to really look at these tanks because they couldn't keep up. Thank goodness that we went down that path, not knowing that World War II was going to come our way. Had we not adapted, changed, got rid of the old and went with the new, what would we have looked like in World War II? It's scary to think about it. So the innovation cycle can only be completed and truly tested with its employment against an actual adversary, in my opinion. So it's also important to make sure it's revealed and concealed appropriately. So German forces, when you think about it, you go back to the Enigma device, right? You know where they got the Enigma device? From the banking community. Battery-powered kind of encryption, and they brought it into the military community. So you talk about that whole of society innovation, another thing we need today. You're technical experts. You know what's out there in the civilian world. You know what's out there on that floor. We're asking you to figure out how to ingest that new technology and contribute to that innovation cycle. Obviously, the Brits eventually broke that Enigma device and ended up saving millions of people's lives. Technical experts figured that out. Now, I don't think those were warrant officers back in the day. It was MI6, but I say it's the same passion that's inside you. Dedicated, determined, passionate, technical experts there. That's you. So we must be prepared to innovate quickly and cheaply as technology improves. Innovation cycle is only getting faster. We talked about the F3A cycle, and it literally is happening from the EMI spectrum. I'm telling you, from hours, there's problems coming from the front line, going to engineers and operators sitting side by side, who are then working on a solution that in some cases going to production and getting back to the front line in hours and days. Anyone witnessing that in our Army right now, that we could solve something that quickly to the production line? I don't think we can rest on our laurels. I don't think the process is good enough right now, and that's the challenge going forward. So we're global leaders in technology. We need to apply our strength, our industrial strength, to solve some of the most difficult problems. So later on today, I'll be on an innovation panel with MIT leader there, Raul Adrago, who we're working with MIT Lincoln Labs, who we brought forward to help out in the conflict in Ukraine, to bring far forward the best and brightest to be co-located, whether it's industrial production, 3D printing, which we have great warrant officers working on in the logistics field, sitting side by side with operators of how to solve problems. What is the new process? What is the new, how are we going to adapt and innovate that new technology? It may require new teams, new expertise. And that's some of the things that we're looking at USASOC when you talk about how to do things differently. So I'm a big believer in the robotics and unmanned systems. I don't even like saying aerial drones. It's not that. The Army needs robotics in all domains, air, land, sea, space, you name it, to augment what we're already doing well and perhaps lead us in what we need doing in new areas of expertise. I do not believe that we can entrust robotics and unmanned systems. I think it'll affect every MOS and branch that's represented in here for sure, but I don't think it's an additional duty that we can rest our laurels on and think we're going to outcompete the Chinese and the Russians in that by being an additional duty in an already saturated career field. Pick a career field, doesn't matter. So we are experimenting in USASOC with creating of a a tech integrator and a tech innovator warrant officer position in 390 Alpha, because we already have those people in your formations. You've seen them, coders, builders, drone flyers, hobbyists, they already exist. The people are here. And I think we can attract more, and I think we're missing the ball when we go out and talk to every high school in America, that you don't specifically talk to the robotics and STEM club and say, we got a jersey for you. Come on in and build badass drones for the U.S. Army, Special Operations, the Joint Force, whoever it is. That's who we need them in our Army. And we need them as extra. We got to provide a career field for them. We got to provide them. We put people at risk right now. Hey, E7 so-and-so, come teach this course. Oh, I'm not going to hit my KD. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to get promoted. We're putting them at risk. That's our job to fix that, right? So that's why we're growing that, and we're looking at combining them with some of our other experiments in special operations, robotics detachments, okay? And so we're changing formations. We're changing career fields and MOSs, and hopefully as an idea for the Army to think about, does this work for the rest of the Army? We're smaller inside Army Special Operations Command, and we're fortunate to have great people to experiment with this, and I hope it leads to other thought experiments across the Army. And going back to the challenge, what 3 other tables should be here next year, warrant officer-wise, with a different skill set? Obviously, you got the recruiter warrant officer, created very quickly. I'm very proud of how fast that went for the Army. That's a great example of how fast we can be. So what other 3 tables should be here next year, and what expertise should be there? What one should be direct hired with the expertise that already exists in the civilian world that you could make quickly into a warrant officer and be part of that special weapon? You all. That's a challenge, I think, going forward there. So let me wrap it up and just think about, how do you challenge your status quo? You know, go back in your time and think about your experiences of who influenced you and how you got to where you are. But who do you surround yourself with now for that candid feedback to ask you the tough questions? Okay, we are harmonized. We're doing well at whatever your measures of effectiveness are right now. You could probably go back to your workplace and go, we're knocking out of the park. I'm batting 1,000. Look at this. I'm crushing it. All right? And then, again, put the lens on against the adversary, in the domain, worst day ever, high-end conflict, and we're at war with an army that's smaller than the invasion force that we had in Kuwait. And we're going up against the NSS, NDS priorities. Do your processes withhold that? Can you handle the impact of day 1, week 1, month 1, year 1 of high-end conflict? Challenge those thoughts and assumptions of whatever your career field is now, and have that candid feedback loop. Don't rest on your laurels. We can't afford for you, our secret weapon, to rest on your laurels. We need you with your dedication, determination, and your passion and your pride to look internal. You have you have all the trust in the world of below and above you and laterally. I mean, it's one of the most unique things about the Warrant Officer Corps. Instantaneous trust because of that rank on your chest. So you have the most powerful voice in some cases to question the status quo. I mean, you can flip a whole meeting on its side, or a whole process on its side, a whole concept aside, how we do doctrine, you name. Again, it could be old technology, new employment. It could be new technology, integration. It could be processes that we've done for 10 years. You go, well, why are we doing that? You have instantaneous credit that others don't, that people who outrank you, I'm telling you, your voice matters bigger than I think some of you think, because of that credibility right there in your chest. You earned it. 106 years before you earned it. That trust has been built up over time of influencing senior leaders, junior leaders, you name it. It was collectively bought by this formation right here. So, secret weapon. I look forward to your questions. I look forward to your thoughts. I look for your homework that I can do to help you all continue your journey of being what has influenced me throughout my whole career. And I guess I just end and say thank you. Thank you for all the ones who are not here that influenced me. I apologize for any of the names I missed along the way, but I can tell you every step of the way through my whole career I've been influenced by warrant officers, and it's magical. It's amazing to think of the other armies that I interact around the world, the other special operations communities around the world, of what they don't have. And again, that's you, our secret weapon. So look forward to any questions you got. Hope I didn't mess up your breakfast. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Aaron. Thanks, Doug. Any questions? Yes, sir.
You spoke about the integration technician. What are the efforts that the other compos can do to support you in that integration technician that you were talking about?
Yeah, so to go a little deeper, I use the two different kind of words there of integration and innovation. So when we're thinking conceptually of a new kind of operational vignette, I want someone with this expertise as far forward as possible that might need to be able to integrate with a unit of action, in this case a special operations unit of action, but it could be any unit of action. So that person needs to be able to integrate technology. At this time, we are focusing on drones. You know, we've created the Robotics Unmanned Systems Integration course. We're totally flywheeled in with the Maneuver Center of Excellence and their efforts. We're totally flywheeled in with the rest of the special operations community. Doesn't mean we've got it figured out, but we understand the community of interest there. So integration at the unit of action level, and at this time it could be drones. In the future, it could be algorithmic computing. It could be engineering. It could be coding. I'm a fan of even entertaining. We're benefit of the having foreign language pay for foreign languages. I think there's a good discussion of, does coding count as an additional language that people should get paid for to embrace the technology that's needed out there, reward what you're looking for. And then there's the innovator. I need the world's best innovator. I don't need you to go run the O course and go with a unit of action and I just need you out, build, think, design the adversary and everything we do for the current technology that is out there or the technology we don't have out there. I was just in Europe recently checking on our forces that are supporting the efforts in Ukraine. Two pretty cool stories. One was a design. I won't say the exact thing. This team design in a soft lab we have in Europe. I'll just say that. But I knew we needed it to support the efforts out there. And what limited them they designed something that had not seen be fixed in the defense industrial base. This piece of equipment, I'll just say, that had not, from multi-billion-dollar corporations I hadn't seen, but a team of just a few innovators built this thing. I saw in action work that multi-billion-dollar corporations have, because we have the right people. I need those type of innovators to be laser focused and have a career field, and we need to take care of them so they can just follow their passion. And we don't have it set up right now. So that's more the innovator. Stay here, build badass stuff that we can use on the battlefield, different than the integrator, like I need you to go with a unit of action, be at a better physical shape and ask you different things and integrate with a team. This person might not even be good at working in a team. I hope they're good at working in a team in kind of a Bell Labs type fashion. I think teamwork works. I think physical co-location works. When you talk about operator, engineer, designer, physically co-located, super important, something that the special operations community embraces, that physical co-location. Anytime you separate the customer with the producer back there, that's a bad model in my mind, bad model. But we can go deeper as you want on that afterwards, though. Yes, sir.
So you said that as a cohort, you have an outsized impact.
Yep.
In our conversations, meetings, except Warrant Officer is real. So that except, I think about innovation. I don't know that being a cog or a piece in an acquisition enterprise is necessarily what we need to do to move forward. So a lot of what you're talking about is culture change, widespread culture change.
Yeah.
So how can we as a cohort use our outsized impact to systematically change culture? I'm talking about things like the informal networking, like the Warrant Officer.
Yeah.
Things like the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum, through programs other services have done, like Project Mercury. How can we create a culture change so that, like you said, we have more innovators, whether, at the units of action?
Well, fantastic question. And I would challenge one thing I didn't say inside the acquisition community, which is needed. but it's not meeting the needs of speed of innovation, the innovation cycle. In my mind, that whole process needs to be challenged, which I think is why you hear the chief talking about flexible funding. I absolutely desire innovation funds or flexible funding to innovate faster. It's the request of every tactical unit, I think, from TIC to even if you're not a TIC designated unit. They're desiring to move faster than the current. That goes back to the speed. I'm talking hours and days in Ukraine. None of our systems work that way. None. It's broken. That's part of the candor that can happen whether you're in the HR realm or the tech world, of like, okay, anything you identify that you could go faster, forget policy, forget law right now. It doesn't mean, I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm saying let's challenge it and let's work with our lawmakers of like, this is where I need help. I know I can affect the battlefield now if I had this. So the identification, because you are the process and technical experts in some cases, you should know it better than anybody, but you've got to put, it's got to be targeted. I need to change this policy. I need to change this law. I need to change this process. It can't be just, I'm raging at City Hall and I'm mad and I'm frustrated. It's you all who are going to focus that targeting to actually give the chief, the secretary, Congress, others, like, this is where we need help, right here, line, paragraph, number. And I think collectively, when you hear it in different branches and different audiences at different levels, I think that's where you can kind of get that crescendo.
But I'm talking about
Yeah.
stuff like the Sherman hedgehog,
Yeah.
right? Or more recently,
Created by an E4, I think, from Iowa. I think it was just welding some stuff on the front of a tank.
self-authorizing behavior to figure out a solution to a problem that's costing lives
Yeah.
in the moment. And then they figured out that this works, and they implemented it wide scale. In Ukraine, they're taking delivery of M1 Abrams tanks, superior tank to what the threat has, but they're getting tracked by drones.
Yeah.
So now they're retrofitting Russian reactive armor on top of these tanks. And I asked, General Hernandez, what do you got to say about that? They diplomatically said, well, the acquisition enterprise didn't ask for that.
Yep. I think we need to talk about it more. We need to highlight more. Again, I talk about it a lot, remain professionally impatient, not just disgruntled. Remain professionally impatient and continue to ask those questions to everybody. I do not think it's supporting us in the way we need to right now. I believe the process needs to change. It is not responsive enough. We need more flexible contracting. We need more operator and soldier touch point input. We need a tighter loop. And these things, that everything we're talking about, need to be what we focus on in special operations, because we're small. We're looking from an irregular warfare approach. We're looking for asymmetric ideas. Right? The hedgehog was one. I'm not saying that's special operation, but that was a game changer there. We're looking for attritable things, because I think things are we can't afford to send a $100,000 missile after a $500 drone, and we need them to be affordable. And that is not happening right now. Not in any drone building thing that I am aware of. It is not happening. They're not game changing. They're not affordable. Ukrainians are cranking them out, tens of thousands a month. And so are the Russians, tens of thousands a month. I don't see that happening going to the transform and contact brigades just yet, because that process needs fine-tuning. And I think that's the chief's vision. That's what he's driving towards, is how do you innovate faster at the same time in a flat budget environment of you can't just throw money at it. So everything's a trade-off of what you want to do, but some of it is doing it differently. I can't get into details, but that's the same thing happening in the Israeli Hamas and Hezbollah conflict there. There's a tight innovation circle there. There's a unique relationship with their defense industrial base, and the same you see in Ukraine. There's a tight relationship with the defense industrial base. It's very responsive. It's very quick. And the price point is exponentially cheaper than anything that we're currently with. Our system is, when you think about it, our system is not made up, the U.S. Army system is not made up to make another Army better. Sure, certainly we have FMS, FMF, long, big programmatic things for big pieces. I think that's good. Helicopters, tanks, artillery pieces, all good. Because we go to war jointly and coalition-based. But we don't have, we don't necessarily set up the Army to be an advise and assist kind of, here's a whole bunch of stuff we're going to work with you on. We kind of build everything for the U.S. Army to go to war with unilaterally. So I think that's a hole in our swing right now, too, to be affordable. So we've adapted different processes, whether it's the PD efforts in Ukraine to kind of give equipment to the whole process there, but I'm not sure that's the best process, the most flexible and optimized process there. So I absolutely believe there needs to be a new process. I'm totally behind the chief on this discussion about flexible funding. I think every operation unit out there would desire more funding. So I innovate at USASOC, we innovate at USASOC with O&M. So if I want to develop one more round, one more drone, I'm deciding not to deploy somebody. Same color money. So I think it could easily be another type of funding, new law, new policy, whatever, with oversight from Congress. Hey, this is how we spend our money, this is how we innovated. And in the innovation world, in the venture capital world, you get a lot of failures. You're going fast, right? Our system is to be perfect and 100% success rate on the traditional acquisition. Hey, meet these gates, and then I think we price ourselves out of business a lot. I think we need a different model, and maybe it's capped at money or capped at size of program or capped this way. But as technology changes, we have to change. So SOF 15, 17 years ago went software design on radios. We got away from the green radio. It wasn't moving quick enough for us. And now you see that with every soldier running around with ATAC and these different things like that. That was courage and leading. It's like, this is not working for us. We need something different that keeps up with the speed of technology. Thankfully, we had the warrant officer signal community base behind us there. And look where we are now. That's what's influencing a lot of the comms and C2 Next discussion. So stay professionally and patient with me, and let's change. Let's continue to be the secret weapon and change everything. We need to. If we go fight tonight, I'm not satisfied where we are right now. So can we do it? We don't know when the game starts, right? You don't know when the game starts. So you have to use every last available second to remain that professionally and patient to be better, because I would not want to go to war right now with the current system we have. I would desire more flexibility, more responsivity, and a tighter innovation adaptation loop there if it was the U.S. Army on the front lanes right now. That's what keeps me up at night. Yes, ma'am.
Sergeant Goodwin, Army G2X.
Yep.
So in this environment, in an open society where we want to innovate and we want to have the technological advantage, how do you see the balance between sharing our technology and protecting it so that we are at an advantage if indeed we get to a conflict? Because we're in competition right now. We're trying to innovate, we're trying to do it faster, but in an open society, and how do we protect what it is that we have that gives us the advantage, especially in an environment like a convention like this?
Yep.
How do we do that? How do we do it better?
Yeah. Well, in your lane, as you know, is CI modernization. I like to say there is no sanctuary. Chinese will absolutely watch this tonight, right? But that can be used to our advantage as well in everything we say, in everything we heal, and perception management. Everyone here needs to be an IO professional, a PSYOP, not PSYOP by trade, but everyone needs to be thinking about information ops in everything you do. There's no go down range and stretch out and get ready for the big mish. It's open press of how much the Russian and Chinese are. I mean, just this last week, right? Look in the telecom industry of Chinese threats and cyber hacking into it. There is no sanctuary. We have to challenge everything. We run around. We send way too much information on unclassed systems. We need a culture change. I was talking about this last night. We were talking about, remember it was under, I think, Secretary Rumsfeld, and we were early 2000s, and we had the, I think it was the Russian hacking thing where we couldn't put thumb drives or anything again. What was the name of that one again? What was it? It was a different name, though. It was Stuxnet, yeah, Project Buckshot, or I can't remember what the heck. Yeah, Buckshot. You couldn't put, that. I mean, that changed culture overnight. Do not use a thumb drive. Okay. Well, to get to target that night and do the route planning, was like, well, how the heck are we going to do that? And a whole bunch of people got in trouble for a while. Like, we told you to. I'm like, yeah, but I got to get the target, but people took some risks there for a little while. So we need some risk takers. But going back to everything from CI to information sharing, this goes back to the challenge. If you go back to the beginning of the global war on terrorism, and you know this, Chief, is a jock in 2003 oh my goodness, the difference between if you walk into JOC now. There's no way you could have the Intel folks on the floor. There's no way you could have NSA net. There's no way you could have interagency and law enforcement in the same place. There's no way you could have ops and intel on the same floor. There's no way. Culture, not law, culture. Physical co-location, people power through that, came up with new ideas. Now everything, any JOC you go into now is open newsroom concept, right? Put people together, solve problems, it happens. And I think we have an over-compartmentalization culture issue, and we're not going to win unless we know how to tie in the coalition to win and multiply our numbers, our force, and really the good versus evil out there. So we have to change culture and our willingness to share. Protect it by adding MILDEC to everything and being active in the information environment and confusing the real with the fake. Everyone here needs to be an IO officer, but we have to overshare vice over-compartment. That's a culture issue. And it's not in our DNA because we want to protect. I think we can obfuscate, and share. So that would be my answer. And it looks like I'm getting the hook. All right, one last one. I'll go 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
You spoke of robotics, unmanned systems. Your thoughts on human-machine integration formations?
Yeah, so I know that MCOE is leading that charge, right? I think that's needed, human-machine integration, but I'm not sure that just even that term is aggressive enough to think differently enough. So I think that'll be part of every MOS that you're integrating with machines, but why isn't there whole robotic formations? You know, why? I think conceptually we need to be open. Anytime we name things, like even you take drones, group 1, 2, 3, 4, it makes no sense to the Ukrainians. Like, what are you talking about? Group 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, we put ourselves in boxes and names and acronyms, and it reduces freedom of thought sometimes. So I think that in itself is prescriptive. This is what we're going to do. We're going to combine. I mean, that is inherently, I think, obvious that we're going to combine things, human, machine. But I would just want to make sure we don't close off freedom of thought of like what else could be. I mean, everyone here should be thinking, how do I work myself out of a job? Right? Not what people want to hear, but can a robot or a computer do something so I can move on to the next thing? Doesn't mean you wouldn't have a role in this. So part of that will be human-machine integration. Part of that could be replacement, right? Horse to tank. It could be, you know, what, again, future vertical lift is awesome. I'm hoping there's a whole bunch of things that aren't risking human lives to fly things in the future and do other things in the life there. And in Futures Command talks about all the time of make first contact with a machine, not blood, right? So I'll leave you this, so I'm getting hooked. I just don't want any of us to be the opening chapter of American First Battles Volume 2. We weren't prepared. We didn't change enough. They didn't see this coming. Why didn't they adapt? They knew the adversary. They knew where they're probably going to fight. Why weren't they getting ready? Why weren't they doing more? Why weren't they challenging things? Why did they rest on, like, hey, we're good enough? So I go back to, you do have an outsized impact to change that. You have the ability to change Volume 2 of America's First Battles. If you've never read the book, it talks about how we were underprepared. Kasserine Pass, Task Force Smith, underprepared before there, okay? Don't waste time. Go forward and change business as usual. Do not accept that when you know how you could be doing your individual expertise differently. Maintain the passion and the pride that you have. Maintain the determination that you had all along that started you on this journey. And for that, we'll all be better off. So thanks for being our secret weapon, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the morning. Thanks, everybody. Oh, yeah.
And then really appreciate your words on experimentation and innovation.
Yeah.
Love the secret weapon idea. I think that's fantastic, sir. Just have a little something with your name on it
look
here,
at that.
so you continue your ties to warrant officers, and really appreciate your advocacy. So on behalf
That's
of
good.
all the warrant officers
Come on, let's
here
get a
for
picture out
breakfast,
here.
and on behalf of the entire cohort, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thanks, Zach, brother. That was enjoyable.
It was an honor for you to be here.
Yeah, man, that was fun. No, here's your book. I don't want to lose that. Thanks, Kara. You don't need my glasses.
No, I got my own. I'm good. Thank you again for your remarks. We truly appreciate your unwavering support to the nation, the Army, and the warrant officer cohort. I want to thank all of you guys for attending We will be reconvening at 08:55 for the first of our 2 warrant officer panels. So you're good till then. You're good?